Hey guys, my name's Roy Ackerman. I run a little program called the Roy Scouts, and it's a wilderness survival school for kids. We're going to go through the basics of survival: shelter, water, fire, and food. Come on, Reagan. So today we're going to start off with the shelters, and the first thing we're going to do is look for a good site to build our shelter. You don't want to build it in a water trap. You don't want big, dead, overhanging branches. And you want to try to face the east so that when the sun comes up in the morning, it warms your shelter. So we're going to go ahead and pick a site and get started. Up here, pretty much all downhill. So what we don't want to do is build our shelter someplace where the water's going to gather down in this valley over here. If you keep on walking down, you actually have a little bit of a knoll here. And it faces east, so it looks like it's a great place to build our shelter. So we're going to get some stuff together and get started. First two pieces of shelter that we gathered was a ridgepole and a wide stick. Just keep in mind that we're not using any tools except for a knife to build this shelter. So you see how the wide stick propped up against the tree holds your ridgepole. We have a small opening in the front that's going to be our doorway. And now we're going to start gathering some framework. You want your ridgepole to be about twice the length of your body. This way you have enough length where you can have a little bit of room in there, but you don't want to make it too high off the ground. So we're going to gather some more materials and we'll be back. Your framework, you're going to find out that you do have to cut some of these pieces down if they're long, and you don't want them to be more than 6 inches over your ridgepole. So, good way to do it: get it between two trees, snap it right off. Now you can cut your pieces as long as you need. Just a little tip. We have our ridgepole. We got our Y stick holding it up against this tree. We gathered a bunch of dead branches and put them up on one side of our ridgepole. All right, and we keep them pretty close together so our insulation doesn't fall through. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use our hands as rakes, and we're going to fill the entire inside of that shelter before we build the other side framework. Okay, so stand by. Like I said, to fill the inside of the shelter with leaves first, we have at least 12 to 14 inches of leaves in the bottom of our shelter. All right, and you're just going to leave enough room for your body between the ridgepole and the bedding. Okay, so let's carry on. I'll show you the finished product. Just stuffed with the bedding leaves. All right, like I said, at least 12 inches, if not more, almost right up to the ridgepole. Got the other side of the framework up, and all we're really doing is filling gaps so that we can cover this whole shelter with leaves and they don't fall through. So what we're going to get next is some thinner branches, like lattice type branches like this. All right, we're going to place them all over the outside of the shelter to keep the insulation from falling through. Our frame. It's a little tough gathering lattice without killing live trees to get the really nice lattice, but we're not going to kill any trees. We're going to use whatever we find on the ground. Just remember, there's no tools used here. This is knife only, and you can even do it without a knife. So we got the framework up. Now what we're going to do is, again, we're going to use our hands as rakes and rake a whole lot of leaves on top of this. Okay, that's going to be our insulation and our waterproofing. About an hour now. The shelter is completely covered with leaves, at least 15 inches, which is not really a cold weather shelter. Cold weather shelter, you gotta get 30 inches of leaves on top of that framework. But this will save your life. I mean, it doesn't look very big inside, but it will keep you warm. It will keep you dry. You snuggle right in there, you burrow in, fill your shirt with leaves and pull it into the door as a plug, and you'll be good to go for a night. All right, so So if you ever find yourself out there and you're afraid you won't find your way back in time, get started on that shelter right away. All right? I mean, because it could save your life. All right, guys. Like I said, this is a shelter that we could build in probably an hour to 2 hours without tools. The amount of leaves that we have on here is going to shed water. It's going to trap your body heat. But like I said, winter, very cold weather, 30 inches of leaves minimum. It's December 23rd right now, and it's in the 30s. Sun's shining. I can't stress enough, don't sweat when you're building your shelter. It is pretty intense work. Strip down. I mean, I built half of the shelter in my underwear, believe it or not. The last thing you want to do is get sweated up, because if you're damp when you get into that shelter and stop moving around, you will get cold. So don't sweat, all right? And work at your own pace. Make sure you can get the shelter built before dark, and get as many leaves on it as you can. And if you find yourself that you're out there for a few days, work on the shelter all day, every day. Make that shelter where you are comfortable sleeping in it at night, not just surviving. I took a week-long class down in the Pine Barrens with my mentor, I'm going to say, Tom Brown, and he offered all kinds of skills during that week. And to be honest with you, I didn't partake in any of them. I didn't do basket weaving. I didn't do flint knapping. What I did all day, every day was work on my shelter. And by the third day, I had a shelter that everybody was envious of. I mean, it was like the Taj Mahal. And I had no problem sleeping in that shelter. It was in the 30s at night in November. And like I said, shelter is the first order of survival. It's the most important thing. So, get out there, practice in your own backyard. Get the kids out there, build some shelters, put the skills to work. I'm not saying you're ever going to need them, but it's a lot of fun, and it's nice to know that you could do it if you needed to. All right? So let's go. Get out there and build one. All right, so we're making some improvements to our shelter. First thing we did was rebuild the stacked debris wall, which is we pound a stick into the ground here, take some springy branches around this tree, and back in behind another branch that we pounded in here. That helps the leaves kind of stay on and keep piled high next to the tree. So the stacked debris wall is going to allow you to put a lot more leaves around the tree. Then we pounded another stick in this side, another small stacked debris wall that we returned back to our shelter. That one needs a little work because leaves are going to fall through, so I'll add a few more branches. And then a small framework for a little roof so that our opening is only big enough for us to fit through. Alright, so we're going to tidy this up a little bit, and we'll get some more leaves on this and show you the finished product. The stacked debris wall is really holding in a lot of leaves that would normally just fall off the shelter. Made a enclosed doorway, just big enough for a body to fit through, and a small stack debris wall on the other side, which is now buried with leaves. We got a lot more leaves on the shelter than we did before. I would feel a lot better about sleeping in this shelter if it's cold out than the shelter we built last time. But remember, the last shelter was a 1 to 2 hour shelter. This is another 2 hours, so this is a 4-hour shelter to build. But believe me, it'll be well worth it if it gets really cold out. This is a great shelter. It's going to keep you warm, keep you dry, even in a rainstorm. So like I said, we're going to keep improving on this shelter as time goes on, and we'll get back to you. A total of 5.5 hours into the shelter. So not only do we have the tunnel door, we got another little stacked debris wall around the outside that's really holding the leaves up nice. I mean, we go right around back. And More stacked debris wall on the other side. So what this does is just keeps your leaves piled nice and high. I mean, you know, we got a ton of leaves on this thing now. I would feel comfortable sleeping in this in cold weather. But just because I think it's good, guess what? Tomorrow, I'd be improving on it again. You can never stop improving on your shelter. All right? So just keep at it. Build the best shelter you can build.